All right, it is our final segment this morning. With me is Professor Thomas Schwartz from over at Vanderbilt talking about North Korea, international relations. It's interesting, I was telling him during the break, just the whole idea of using a nuclear weapon, under any circumstance is just, to me, very scary. It's scary. It just is. And you need to remember the last time we used it. CBS did an interesting story just a few weeks back on 60 Minutes where they took a tour on that giant submarine, the nuclear submarine. Is the Kentucky, or what's it called, which has on it alone 20 nuclear warheads that can be delivered anywhere. And they were asking him, how does this warhead compare to the one we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which is the last time we used nuclear weapons? And he said, I mean, it's multiple times as powerful as that. Multiple, and there's 20 of them on this single submarine alone. Yeah. I mean, that sub alone could destroy the planet. It's just scary to think about that. I mean, that's why the idea of conventional weapons, if we're going to have to go after them.
If it does happen, but I think that's the reason this crisis has escalated is the idea that the North has not only become a nuclear power and has warheads, but now, according to some intelligence reports, has figured out how to miniaturize those warheads and put them on the top of missiles so that it could deliver them. And so all of this is sort of combined to make the issue much more pressing right now. I
agree, and that's one of the things that was a little bit disturbing to me, and even I've heard some of the experts in Washington say, we were caught a little off guard and our intelligence has not been good. I mean, we were surprised to see some of these new launches with these new missiles that can travel across the ocean to us, and now we're learning from, all of a sudden, they have a warhead that might be able to go on top of that. I mean, our intelligence is not kept up. They're farther along than we think.
That's what we suspect. Of course, we also know that intelligence can be wrong. We learned that very hard ways.
In Iraq, did it not? So let's go to Fred. Fred, good morning.
Yeah.
Hi, Fred. Go ahead.
I got a question for you. Don't Chinese cross the border because they're Chinese people? And there's a lot of Chinese people over there in North Korea that's trading back and forth.
Yeah, there's trade.
They certainly do.
Material and stuff like that. If we bomb North Korea and we kill a bunch of Chinese people, what's the Chinese going to do about that? What if our Americans were across the border in another country and some foreign country bombed that country and killed a bunch of Americans, innocent Americans in that country that was visiting or working there? Wouldn't China get back in the war, or America get in a war real quick with a country that bombed them? And also, don't China, isn't it our major debtor? Don't we owe China more money than any country in the world? They hold our debt. How can we negotiate with China if they hold our debt? It'd be like trying to go down here and talk to a bank and had your house and your home debt and stuff.
Yeah, those are two good questions. What about that?
Well, I think the danger of killing Chinese in any sort of military action in North Korea is certainly there. I doubt there would be many Chinese near the nuclear locations because those are highly restricted areas of North Korea. But the caller is absolutely right that there are Chinese in North Korea, and that in any sort of military conflict that could cause problems for that would cause problems in general. As far as the debtor thing, and the fact that the United States and China are in such a close economic relationship where China has bought so many American securities also creates a kind of mutual dependence. Both of us are
in the interest to see both do well because we're invested in them.
Yeah, and it doesn't completely prevent us from pressuring on specific issues. But the caller's right that we are linked economically in ways that make the Chinese economy and the United States economy sort of codependent.
Yeah, and I guess it was the number. There's over 150,000 Americans in South Korea, I think, living and working there.
About 30,000 soldiers, 25 to 30,000 soldiers, and then their dependents and
then civilians who are there in business and things like that. So there are a lot of Americans there, just on the other side of what he was talking about.
Exactly.
Let's go to Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hey, good morning. It's funny, Guam. I had a buddy of mine back in the early 90s when I did that government work. The professor knows me. I picked Trump all along last July.
Yeah.
But he's got a driver's license from Guam when he got a bunch of DUIs. This is before they were checked up in states and stuff. And a cop pulled him over and goes, "Where's this license from?" The guy goes, "Guam."
Yeah, I know.
But, yeah, we are pretty interdependent, but I've always thought that we should default a little bit on that Chinese debt, or definitely have it restructured and cut down all the plastic crap they're dropping in Walmart, because, it seems like I remember being in Long Beach in 1991 or something, and I saw all these boats coming in with these big train trailers full of stuff. And I said to the guy, "What is that stuff?" He goes, "That's all stuff from China." I said, "Oh my God, they're not going to beat us with rifles. They're going to beat us with plastic crap, with toys."
Yeah.
I thought that was weird.
It is weird.
Yeah. Well, it's right. I mean, anyone who's had young children knows that most of what you buy in Walmart is made in China.
Made in China. Yeah. And my first TV job almost was in Guam. When you live in Guam, and I didn't take it, but you do a lot of military reporting, obviously, and things like that.
That's right.
But Guam looks nice. And why is it you think North Korea said, okay, we're putting together plans to target Guam?
I think two reasons. One is they probably can be far more secure that they could successfully attack Guam than any farther, because the range of their missiles is such.
And Guam is considered an American.
Guam is an American territory. It
Yes.
also is the place. It would also be probably the place from which any American attack on North Korea, part of it would come from Guam,
because we have a military base there.
We have our B-1 bombers there, as well as B-52s, and so attacking Guam actually would make some sense directly in terms of their own protection.
All right. As we kind of wrap things up here, just in terms of negotiating with the leader of North Korea, Donald Trump did say at one point, before we've gotten to this far down the road, that he'd be willing to talk to him.
Yes.
Now, and again, foreign leaders sometimes with folks like him don't want to give them credibility by meeting them face to face.
Right.
But I mean, I sense Donald Trump, the deal maker and such, if he could sit down face to face with Kim Jong-un, I don't know where they would do that, how they would do that. Could they not work something out? I mean, does it ever come to that? I know Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, it would go through him. But just, seriously, you think I'm joking, but I mean, the American that goes over there 2 or 3 times and comes back alive is Dennis Rodman. I mean, can you find something? Obviously, Kim Jong-un, if he's got a thing for Dennis Rodman, has some quirky tastes and likes, right? Is it just ridiculous as I sit here, just some reporter in Nashville, bringing these things up about, do I just not understand how maybe we could open up a line of communication with the leader?
No, what would be the result? What would be the response, for example, of Donald Trump if the Chinese leader said, "I'll arrange a summit for you in Beijing. I'll bring Kim Jong-un, and you can come." I think, I mean, there is actually, China could do something like that as a way of diffusing the American threat as well. The problem is as much as I think we have a tendency always to think it's in our control and something Trump can do, I think, we're in the end dealing with a rather erratic and unreliable leader in North Korea. We don't really know what their intentions are. We think they're rational, but I think that would be China's the only country that probably could pull that off. Maybe Vladimir Putin could. Yeah. But of course that would put Trump in debt to Putin, and that may not be what he wants to be these days.
Hey, as we wrap things up, and I'm glad you brought up Putin, just a completely different subject, the whole issue with Russia right now and what we see happening with, grand juries have been convened, and, they've raided the home, and what do you think?
I think it's going to go on, and I think it's going to irritate the president to no end when they get into his finances. And I think there could be a constitutional crisis if he decides to fire Mueller, which could happen.
So, really? I mean, because just hypothetically, if he did fire Mueller, couldn't Congress say, besides, and they've already been on record saying, you do something like that, we're really coming out. Congress then could say, okay, fine, you fire Mueller, we're hiring him.
Yes.
Couldn't Congress just say, you're going to be working for this committee or this. You keep doing what you're doing. You're working for us now. He fired you, doesn't matter. You keep doing what you were doing.
No, this could continue. I mean
just the whole idea of him firing doesn't mean he's going to go away necessarily.
No, not at all.
But I mean, you still think more will come out of this. It's just, I get confused sometimes about, but if there's criminal charges.
Well, the financial things are much more complicated, and certainly involve some of his staff, like Manafort, and those could get very messy because they do involve things that, it might have nothing to do with collusion. It may get very far afield from the idea that there was was any role in the campaign, but because it's part of the investigation, it could be very embarrassing. I mean, Trump never released his tax returns, and so this financial disclosure sort of stuff could be not a very favorable
It's
thing.
just amazing. As that goes on, as North Korea dominates the headlines to some things, we know there was a failure to come up with something better than the Affordable Health Care Act.
Right.
They're looking now at potential tax reform. How is that going to get along? I mean, they've got a failure there. They certainly don't have any momentum. The real issues that affect us Americans at home domestically,
Yeah. Well, it's an
how
interesting
is it
fall.
Get done. I mean, how's it going to get done? I mean, I'm trying to think back of so far in terms of the Trump administration, some of the achievements, and there have been some. But I mean, what sits out is you appointed a Supreme Court nominee.
Yeah.
That made it through. But in terms of legislative action and all this, it all seems to take a backseat to what's going on there in North Korea and Russia. I mean, when will things get done? My goodness.
Well, I mean,
and we've got a midterm election coming
we've got
up.
a midterm election. I mean, on the other hand, the economy is chugging along
It
and
is
doing
doing
quite
well.
well. So, the sense of pressure on this, there's political pressure certainly to have something for the midterm elections, but we're not in as desperate an economic situation as we were, say, in 2009-10 when the Obama administration came in and pushed health care and other issues.
Yeah, economically, that's a really good point. And you wonder, I mean, economically, things are going well here, at least if you check your 401k, the stock markets, for whatever reason, some of the things that Trump has done, some of the things that carried over in the past. But I mean, I thought sometimes when there's world unrest, certain things take a beating.
Yeah, and that's possible. And certainly the stocks initially declined when the news on North Korea got bad, but then they've readjusted. Maybe they don't take it as seriously.
Yeah, well, you did see Rex Tillerson saying, he had to get to the point yesterday where he went on air, didn't he say, the American people can rest easy tonight. Tonight.
Yeah.
I hate that he even had to do that.
No,
I mean, I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
And, I respect the work they're doing, but it's just like, that there's some people that are out there worried, including me, that we could be embarking on some kind of nuclear strike anyway.
Yeah.
Blech. Professor, are you going to be working on this? School's about to start for you with class. What coursework will you be talking to him about it in?
Well, probably sort of. I'm doing my course on U.S. foreign relations.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's a sort of general course. It's historical.
Yeah.
We will talk probably, I'm sure, though, about this crisis and the historical roots.
Professor, pleasure.
Pleasure.
I bet you're really good in the classroom too. It's good to see you. We'll talk to you again soon. We're going to take a break. Be back with a programming note right after this. Stay with us.